his mom.
I need more bullets! I need more bullets! I need more bullets! I need more bullets!
I've been wanting to make this video for some time, and it's finally here. Overrated yet underrated, broken yet fixed, eternal yet ephemeral. Tracer's pick rate in Grandmaster is triple of that in Platinum according to Overbuff, and I'm here to explain why. Why is Tracer so powerful at the highest levels, and is that even a problem? Why isn't she that good at your rank, assuming your Masters and below? And most of all, how can you leverage this hero to accelerate your climb in the middle ranks? First off, I have a basic premise for describing a broken hero, quote unquote. In short, they have a low cost and high rewards, or their cost is disproportionate to their rewards. In other words, you get more out of what you put in. About a year ago, I used a Dogecoin illustration to essentially show this. It's basically having a much better investment for what it's worth. But there is one thing I want to clarify. Tracer is not a low cost hero. In fact, she has quite a high cost, as I'll explain later. But I think her reward for that cost is still too high, and hopefully I can explain that point. I've already described multiple times about how I categorize cost and rewards, so I'll just cut and copy that section of the video here.
The first cost, of course, is skill, or what amounts to long-term effort. If something takes a lot of practice to get right, then players who do get it right should be rewarded for it with higher impact. The next cost factor is risk. Are you putting yourself at risk in order to complete your task? If you are, then you should be rewarded accordingly. The third cost is one that is very common in a lot of games and genres: immediate time investment. This usually comes in the form of cooldown. The final cost is resource management. This one usually overlaps with time investment since cooldowns are usually single-use resources.
Now onto the first category, mechanical costs. And Tracer probably has the highest mechanical cost in the entire game. If you think she's just tracking, you're gonna be in for a surprise. Tracer's mechanics consist of trigger discipline, tracking of course, blink management, cover or terrain usage, reload management, distance management, and pulse bomb usage. Honestly, I would go as far to say that she's one of the best designed heroes, not just in Overwatch, but in the gaming industry in terms of how much skill you need to master her mechanics. And this is why, whenever I even coach low Grandmaster Tracer players, I wouldn't even say they're necessarily good Tracer players, because there's so many different areas to improve on. Speaking of coaching, if you want to get the best coaching around, check the top link in the description. Use code USCRIM2023 for 20% off. So, Tracer is a very mechanically demanding hero, therefore, she deserves to have the highest rewards, right? Well, that's where the second section comes in, risk versus rewards. Drunkbuck actually raised this point in the GG Recon panel. For those who don't know, this panel is basically made up of Overwatch League coaches, and it was very insightful, so hopefully I remember to put a link to that, either in the top right, or in the description.
Do you think Tracer has a problem?
Tracer does feel, overwhelming too, oppressive, where the game gets decided by a pulse bomb a lot, has no risk, just going for a pulse, and it builds super fast. If it's like every minute, less than a minute each time, you get to have a free win card.
Tracer shouldn't get special treatment. That's all I think. Is like any hero being 70% play rate is a problem. My thing is that they should just constantly shake up the meta. Like they should constantly do significant balance patches that change the game pretty significantly.
I mean, the majority of Tracer players have never one clip somebody.
Exactly. So,
never.
And I think all the high skill heroes end up staying on top longer than they ought to in the pro play because, you know, statistically, if you look at the whole player base, they're not actually that strong. And so Blizzard doesn't really nerf them on the same speed as like if Torb is super broken, then Torb is broken for every single person playing Overwatch, and it's like a huge problem, and everyone's complaining. Tracer being broken only affects the elite 2% of the game.
In short, Drunkbuck's main point was that there's no risk to using Pulse Bomb. Sure, maybe it costs some cooldowns, but you would never die from yeeting a Pulse Bomb to get a pick. Not to mention, Pulse Bomb charges extremely fast, costing under 1300 points to get. And you might say that because Pulse Bomb is very mechanically demanding, therefore you deserve to get the kill. I honestly would mostly agree with that. But considering we're in 5v5 and not 6v6, meaning that one-shots are even more powerful, and that Pulse Bomb charges insanely quickly, I still think the reward is too high. Not to mention, you can still Pulse Bomb tanks, which is way easier and removes that mechanical cost. And if you guarantee some follow-up, that's basically a free kill into the tank. Unless you're playing Kiriko, who is another problematic hero for her own different reasons, Pulse Bomb is basically a free teamfight win. There's no counterplay if you're Brig, Iliari, Ana, or even Baptiste. whose immortality field would just get Thanos snapped anyways. And because Pulse Bomb stick percentage gets higher and higher the more you climb, this isn't really an issue that affects the majority of the player base. Plat players aren't landing their Pulse Bomb 30 to 40% of the time. As a result, I think Pulse Bomb needs to cost a bit more and be a bit more expensive, or we reduce the rewards by reducing the Pulse Bomb damage. This would encourage more skillful usage of Pulse Bomb by actually landing on squishies and not just farming large hitboxes, being tanks, so hopefully this shouldn't affect the average player all too much. But Pulse Bomb is only one part to Tracer's rewards. In fact, most of the value comes from the last section and mastering those mechanics in a way where you either win duels against other DPS or you just Thanos snap enemy backlines. And it's a tough balance for Tracer, because surely if your hero has the most demanding mechanics, you should have the highest rewards for mastering them. So I guess my main issue with Tracer here is that you don't need to be a master at all those mechanics to get great value out of her. If your mechanics are okay, and you have good cover usage, and you just engage at the right time, you can do a lot with this hero. And I honestly don't think those things are too big of an ask, or too difficult to do. I mean, you can see it for yourself in SVB's Tracer video, where despite he's got basically no prior experience on Tracer, he still managed to pop off and carry fights. Of course, he still underwent challenges, but none of these are ones that are unreasonable or overtly difficult to overcome. Now onto the third section, cooldowns. This one I'm not going to spend too long going over. Of course, Tracer has short cooldowns, being her blinks, and while her recall is 12 seconds long, Tracer's cooldowns are so heavily intertwined with her gun and mechanics that it's a bit complicated to separate them, so I'll get onto the last section, resource creation or denial. And this one is truly kinda crazy. The amount of attention and space Tracer can not only create, but hold and retain is probably better than any other DPS in the entire game, and the reason for that is her mobility. In short, because Tracer is the best duelist in the game, she can control flanks like no other DPS. Here's a clip from me coaching a 4-5 Tracer that explains how important this kind of space control is in relation to the last dive meta that we just got out of. It's still AFK.
Yeah.
Still AFK. Now you're okay. Now you're doing something. But it's already too late. Like, a Gecko's already dead. Whereas right now, like, imagine you push out the Sombra here. Maybe you even killed her if you got lucky, and then you went against backline, and then like Matt is already in. He's already in, right? Imagine if you were here, right? And then you could actually trade out backlines, look to go for the Brig, look to go for the Arna who hasn't got nade, something like that, right? And again, maybe if you start a pulse bomb last fights, you could pulse the Brig, right? All nice and dandy. However, right now, Tracer doesn't seem to be getting much play. In fact, top teams like Atlanta are playing these Bastion brawl comps even on dive maps like in Mbani. So what's going on here? First off, Iliari. She is the first support who can instantly halve Tracer's HP. Baptiste could kind of do it, but you had to land all 3 of your bursts, and your positioning was pretty passive, and you're focused on healing your tanks most of the time. Whereas, with Iliari, you're straight up a DPS hero. Not to mention, dueling Iliari is quite hard. You have to deal with her pylon, and her outburst can create some distance, allowing Iliari to just get that one critical shot off. Some teams have tried to adapt with the Tracer Kiriko, which we did see a bit of on the Washington Justice a few months ago, but even this has its downsides, mainly being the lack of defensive peel a brick can provide. Teams will just flush out the Tracer Kiriko and then push in with their own dive or their own rush. The second reason why we're not seeing Tracer is sustain. In particular, Bastion and Torb. The 50 armor you get when going into turret form, stacked with your ironclads, alongside your blazingly fast grenades and pinpoint recon mode, makes Bastion not as vulnerable as he once was. Pair that with the Torb buffs too, and even though his turret did get enough, it's still quite annoying for Tracer to deal with. Overloads, plus a faster fire rate, also means that Torb Cheetos basically instantly force recall. Stack these two reasons together, and it's pretty tough to play Tracer at the Overwatch League level. It's not impossible by any means, but it seems that the approach from the devs to lowering Tracer's pick rates is to introduce or buff her counters, rather than nerfing Tracer herself, which can lead to power creep, but hey, that's for a whole new discussion for another day. As for now, Tracer solidifies herself as the most flexible, all-around DPS pick in the game. She's almost never a bad pick, has crazy carry potential and infinite skill ceiling, and you don't even need to do much to get crazy value out of her. She's probably in the worst meta she's ever been in since Overwatch 2 launch, and she still has a high pick rates. So, if you want to learn Tracer, be sure to check the top right for the best Tracer guide out there. And of course, the personal coaching in the description. Shout out to my channel members, Team Egg, Slothdust, Xbenny, Ushi, Wix, Broken by 50%, Suffering, Chris Jones, and Craig. and let me know your thoughts down below. Until next time.